So one of the big problems with decolonization is, what do you do with the colonizers? It's a fair question to ask, and as a colonizer myself, a question that is fairly pertinent to me personally. The core problem is, we colonizers are stuck in a really weird identity crisis because we have no connection to the land we occupy. Even centuries after invading, we still treat this land like it's a product of conquest. We ravage, we strip mine, and we pollute this land with barely a second thought. And that mindset means we never truly connected to this land. The purposeful erasure of thousands of years of history and the mass extinction of animals in this land since colonization is a very clear example of that fact. But here's the catch. Colonizers don't have any connection to their ancestral lands either. For example, my family is from Northern England and Southern Ireland, and I don't know anything about either of them. I can't even imitate my genetically native accent. I have no connection to my homeland, not culturally, not spiritually, nothing. And that connection was also severed because of colonialism. So if colonialists have no connection to the true history of the land we occupy, but also no connection to our ancestral homelands, then who are we? And that's why colonial identity only truly manifests in either overt racism or indignant privilege, because when your identity is paper thin, you lash out at everyone who challenges it, as I'm sure the comment section below will kindly demonstrate for me. But the irony is that all colonial people secretly yearn to belong. That's why colonial people are so obsessed with things like family trees and DNA tests, because identity, like culture, is built on history. But colonial countries are continually erasing their history to prop up the justification for colonialization in the first place. We delete the history to maintain a fake identity, but no identity can grow because we keep deleting our history. So colonial identity never grows deeper than surface level, or what I like to call the football and barbecues culture. Our real history is full of horror and hate, which we bury shallow and keep pretending isn't there. And that open wound is left to fester and poison every generation that follows. But our future doesn't have to be this way. There is a future for everyone under decolonization and land back. But the first thing we need to do is treat that open wound. We need to stop running and hiding from our real history. We need to find all the mass graves of our past and give everyone in them a proper burial. We need to acknowledge the pain and damage of colonialism, and we need to dismantle and atone for the crimes of these systems. Colonial power structures must be dismantled, and a new system based on justice for everyone must be built. If we do that, none of us will ever have to wonder about who we are ever again, because we will have built a society whose identity is celebrated by all for countless generations to come.
If we insist on our heroes being pure, we aren't going to have any. Last year, the shine on Mahatma Gandhi's halo came off when we learned of his views that Indians were culturally superior to black Africans. Does that mean we should forget his remarkable achievements? I don't think so. Second, claims that Rhodes was South Africa's Hitler and carried out genocide lack any historical foundation. Third, Rhodes was not racist. He didn't hold black Africans in general contempt. He did not view them as biologically inferior and incapable of cultural development. In 1899, he defended the right of blacks to vote. He stipulated that his scholarships be awarded regardless of race, and the first Rhodes Scholarship was awarded to an African American within 5 years of his death. Fourth, while often ruthless in his choice of means, Rhodes was a prodigious entrepreneur who used his wealth for public purposes. Unlike some of South Africa's current rulers, he didn't use it to feather his own nest. Rather, to develop the region's economy and to build a worldwide community of public leaders through his scholarship legacy. Fifth, if Rhodes must fall, so must Churchill, whose views on empire and race were much the same. And so probably must Abraham Lincoln. While Lincoln liberated African American slaves, he doubted they could be integrated into a white society and favored their separate development, their segregation, or apartheid, if you will, in an African colony. Finally, in 2010, the ANC government in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa named a new airport after King Shaka. Shaka was responsible for forging a highly militaristic Zulu empire in the early 1800s, for waging terroristic and genocidal wars, not least in 1826, and for a share of the deaths of between 1 and 2 million black Africans. If Shaka gets to stand in Durban, Rhodes, whose sins pale by comparison, should be left standing in Oxford.
Well, Cecil Rhodes really is a historical figure, another hero. He managed to get the settlers established not only in southern Rhodesia, southern Rhodesia, northern Rhodesia, and he went as far as a bit of what was Nyasaland then, Malawi, and then South Africa itself. He was really the anchor of this of settlers taking root, especially the English-speaking settlers.
Did he do this by fair means or foul?
Is there any settlers that take anything by fair means? That's never done. It was foul means all through.
For centuries, Africa's parks, monuments, mountains, and even entire countries have carried the names of people who never came in peace. Colonizers who extracted wealth, who drew borders that destroyed unity, who treated Africans as inferior in their own homelands. So today the question rises, should these colonial statues and names remain, or should they fall? This is not just about cement and street signs. This is about memory, identity, and healing. When Europeans carved up Africa during the Berlin Conference of 1884, they did more than just take land. They renamed the continent to fit their vision, erasing African history and replacing it with their own. Rhodesia was now Zimbabwe and Zambia, named after Cecil John Rhodes, the architect of violent genocidal conquest. The Victoria Falls, named after Queen Victoria, despite the local name Mosiao Tunya, the smoke that thunders, existing for centuries. Lake Albert, Lake Victoria, Lake Edward, European royalty stamped across African waters. Cape Town streets once filled with Dutch and British colonial governors' names. By renaming the landscape, colonizers rewrote who mattered and who didn't. Statues are public celebration. They represent who the nation chooses to honor. So what message does it send to future generations when cities still glorify men who enslaved Africans, genocided Africans, stole the land and resources, expropriated this land and resources, imposed segregation and apartheid? Let's take Cecil John Rhodes, a man who believed Africans were inferior and whose companies built wealth on exploitation. Yet for decades, a towering statue of him stood at the University of Cape Town. Students walked past it every single day, a reminder of white supremacy cast in bronze. It finally came down during the Rhodes Must Fall movement in 2015, a monument that ignited change worldwide. Oppression doesn't just end because the laws have changed. The wounds remain where symbols of trauma still stand. Renaming places and removing oppressive monuments is part of restoring dignity, especially for Africans. Examples of positive change are renaming colonial names like Salisbury to Harare, Leopoldville to Kinshasa, honoring, respectively, local Shona heritage, removing the name of a man responsible for millions of deaths, restoring Isxhosa dignity, returning the indigenous name in Kenya. These changes are acts of healing. They tell African children, your language, your heroes, your history, they belong to Africa. And you will always get opponents who often argue removing statues is erasing history.
I think it started to happen in Britain with the removal of, or the attempted removal of statues of people who are considered unlikable because they were an imperialist. Cecil Rhodes is the example I'm thinking of, and he founded a country called Rhodesia. It's its name, which is now Zimbabwe, of course. There's a big statue of him or a sculpture of him or something in his Oxford College. And there was a movement because people were offended by this, because he stood for values that we now regard, rightly, I think, as terrible. Stealing other people's countries.
Right.
Not a good thing to do, and raiding all their mineral wealth. But to remove his statue it strikes me as being stupid. I mean, the way to fight colonialism and the ideas behind it is not to pull down statues.
Yeah.
It is to actually to reveal, to say who he is. This is who this man was. Look at him.
But statues don't teach history. They glorify it. There are no statues of Adolf Hitler in Germany. The history is preserved in museums, books, and education, not in celebration. Instead of erasing history, Africans are finally correcting it. Historical truth begins in museums with full context, classrooms with honest discussion, not as monuments overlooking cities built on suffering and exploitation. So, Africa is filled with the real heroes who fought for justice, freedom for all, and African unity. Heroes like Nelson Mandela, Robert Mugabe, who gave his people dignity, Patrice Lumumba, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Dedan Kimati, Queen Nzinga, Samora Machel, Robert Sobukwe, Chris Hani, Thomas Sankara. Replacing colonial names with African heroes helps build national identity, pride, and unity. Heroes like Joshua Nkomo, Kwame Nkrumah, Haile Selassie. We can't forget these heroes in the past. So, changing a name doesn't change the past, but it changes the future we choose to build. This is not just about statues falling. It's about Africans standing taller. Every renaming is a declaration. Africa will define herself. Her history will no longer be written by those who stole and exploited her, but by those who survived and continue to rise. The story of Africa isn't finished, and we get to write the next chapter. If you believe in reclaiming identity, rebuilding pride, and restoring the truth, don't just watch, be a part of the movement. Please hit like, subscribe, and share this message, because when one statue falls, an entire continent rises.